everyone. Thank you so much for joining. This episode is going to be definitely very interesting as my guest is someone who more recently left Straightway. She left about a year and a half ago. She is someone that was born into this environment, grew up there, knows the ins and outs. Her parents are still currently involved, but she is here today to tell her story and how she got out. And I want to welcome Kaylin. Wait, am I saying that right?
Yeah, Kaylin. Hey.
Kaylin, okay. I just want to make sure, so you know, my name is very different, so just want to make sure it's right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm pretty good.
I cannot believe how grown up you are. I think me and Hannah watched you a few times. You had to be like 3 or 4 because you had this blonde hair and these curly ringlets, and you were just the cutest thing ever. But yeah, just crazy, just all grown up. So yeah, we'll just kind of get started. I would say this is going to be a little bit different because there's been some different scenarios. There's people that have come with their parents who have gone through the rehab part of it, like how me and my sister came. There have been people that have come as single people and just gone through the program. There are people that were born into this environment, and you were one of the ones that were born into it. Your parents came there, they met there, they got married and had a couple kids. So
me.
yes. So why don't we just kind of start with, so growing up in this, did you kind of think it was normal, everything?
Well, I was aware that it wasn't like normal because I did go to public school from the time I was in kindergarten. And so I was aware that other kids grew up in homes, you know, that were like just their family and that they weren't as involved in their church as my family was. But I was also kind of like, I didn't want to talk about it with anybody because I knew that people thought it was weird and it was different. And my parents really instilled this idea that it was like a blessing to be there as a child, to be blessed in this environment, to be able to grow up there. But don't tell anybody because they're going to think it's weird. And so I kept on the down low. I knew it wasn't normal, but I thought it was a blessing, you know?
Wow, okay. So you were told not to tell anyone about it, but
well, not really like not just, okay, let me go back. Not that I couldn't tell anyone, but they kind of told me that I didn't really have to tell anyone about it. It wasn't that I was commanded not to talk about it. They kind of gave me this idea that, you know, if you do tell people, they're going to think it's weird. So you don't have to tell anyone. You know, you might get made fun of if people find out where you live and stuff like that I was told when I would be going to school and stuff like that. And so I kind of just didn't really tell people, but I knew I was really different than everyone else around me.
Yeah. Well, I would say that's a little bit different than what we experienced because we weren't allowed to go to the public school.
Yeah.
And so I think your generation, y'all were allowed to go to the next, you went to the next town over, right?
Yeah, for elementary school, I went to the next town over. And then once I got to junior high, I went to a little bit more distant school district, but it was like better or whatever. I don't know, it was all a hick town, but I changed schools. So.
Well, at least you got a proper education. I would say that. Some of it, we had to homeschool and like we pretty much had to teach ourselves. So at least you got that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess that kind of leads into, I mean, what was it like? I guess it's kind of the same question, but what was it like growing up there? You're born into this and then you're growing up in this environment. I know when I was little, they were kind of running around, everything just seemed so big and just like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go play at the park today. I'm gonna go in the field. We're gonna go play in the field. When you're little, you don't know all the bad stuff. So it's just seems pretty cool or something.
Well, I grew up in, you know, like a little neighborhood down the road, you know,
Mhm.
like I don't know how far down the road, but just a little bit down the road.
Mhm.
Um, and we would always be outside playing with the other kids, but I was I was the kid that everybody picked on. All the kids that were living at the center, I was the one that got bullied. I was the one that got name called and all of that. Um, and I think that has to do with how I was raised by my parents, but I was just a target to
Mhm.
a lot of the other kids because of how my hair looked or because I always said something dumb. I always like was awkward. I was very socially awkward
Mhm.
at a young age. And so I was a big target to the other kids, but I was also a target at school. So everywhere I went, I was being picked on, bullied because I was weird, I guess they thought. So um, my parents were very I don't want to say strict because it wasn't exactly strict. It was just a very intense style of discipline.
Mhm.
Um,
Did,
I mean, I've what?
did you get spanked?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
spanked all the time. But I do have this one story from when I was 5 years old um, that I guess at school or something. And now this story, my mom like paraded around and like told like it was something she should get a trophy for. Okay. And told this story like she made sure my head was screwed on straight or something by what she did.
Mhm.
Okay. But I was in kindergarten and I guess I had a big mouth and I smarted off to my teacher
Mhm.
about something she was correcting me and I smarted off to her. And so I guess she called my mom and told my mom that I was smarting off. And so I get home and she takes my backpack from me and she says, "So I heard you smarted off to your teacher today."
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't remember what I said, but basically my punishment for smarting off to my teacher, she had a bucket of water with soap in it and a sponge, and she said, "You're going to scrub every wall in this house." I'm 5 years old. Okay. And so this lady stands over me, behind me. "You missed a spot, Kaylin. You missed a spot. Scrub that spot right there." And you know, I'm starving. That's all I remember is I'm starving. I just got home from school. And you know, I told her I'm hungry and she said, "Well, you're not going to get anything to eat because you smarted off to your teacher." Okay, so anyways, um so I'm scrubbing the walls and it was a long time. I just remember it feeling like forever that I
Mhm.
was just scrubbing the walls.
Mhm.
And then after I scrubbed all the walls in the house, she said, "You're going to scrub all the cabinets too." And I remember scrubbing the coffee stains off the cabinet from my
Mhm.
parents drinking coffee or whatever every morning, but there was just like stains of coffee dripping down and I was scrubbing it. And my
Mhm.
mom was like, "Don't stop until you scrub all of that."
Mhm.
And so after all of that, um, she gave me a bath and she said, "You're not getting dinner tonight. You cannot eat dinner tonight because you smarted off to your teacher." And then she gave me a spanking and then I went to bed.
Oh my God. Ha-
And
Oh,
I
I,
I have never forgotten that. And she parades it around like that day she screwed my head on straight.
mhm.
And I never smarted off to anyone else ever again. That's what she always said. But
Mhm.
really, I never stood up for myself ever again.
Yeah.
Ever. I was too scared to ever speak up to anyone ever again. Like I uh anyways, there's that story.
Yeah. Wow. How long did you have to scrub for? Was it like for hours?
I don't know how long it was. I just know it was as soon as I got home, she already had the bucket ready. Like that was her plan, I guess.
I can understand disciplining your kids, but not feeding them, that's like child abuse. I mean, holy
I mean, I
goodness.
was 5 years old. That's like a baby still.
Yeah, you're still, that's one thing when you're a teenager, like go tell your freaking teenager, you need to go do some chores, man. But your little kid who's, yeah, you're still a kind of a baby at that point, but oh my God. So you start getting older and stuff, and you're still, you're growing up in this environment, and you eventually get on the praise and worship team. What age was that?
Um, I believe I was about 15. And this was when the pastor's oldest daughter was still there,
Okay.
leading worship. I was asked to start playing the drums
Mhm.
for worship. Um, and I mean, at that point, there wasn't really anything. It was just kind of normal because I just came in on Sunday morning and I played, like, and that was as much as I saw or did. And, I wasn't really as involved as I became later on.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I started at 15
And you said you did it for how long?
until I left.
And until you left. So you were pretty but I would say like this is a little bit different when you're on the praise and worship
Yeah.
team. First of all, you have to abide by the law of the clan of the first in command and the
Mhm.
first daughter. It's whatever they say goes. And I know that things would get pretty intense with him, with the pastor himself. And so what were the things that he would do when he would come in? Because he was on the praise and worship team too. He played, what did he play? He played,
Raindrops and
I mean, like he played like electric guitar or what was?
yeah, he played it on the guitar, but it would just be like random noises.
But it just be like random notes.
Yeah,
Like,
like random instruments and
oh,
sounds and
you're like, what's going on in the background there? It's not really flowing with what we're doing here.
Mm.
So what would he do when he would come in, like at practice or whatever, or just like
Oh, he
come?
was never at practice.
Oh, okay. Because
Never.
he was very good. He
Never.
knew what he was doing.
Never would he come to practice ever. And that's why it was like so like distracting when he would play on Sunday morning. It would be like, we have no idea what he's doing. He hasn't learned the new song. He's just playing. And we're like, but no, I mean, when I was playing drums, I didn't notice anything. I was never exposed to anything that he had to say or did because his daughter did worship the way he wanted worship done. You know what I mean? And once she wasn't there anymore, that's when things started changing and becoming a little bit more difficult with him. And my mom was promoted to worship leader and choir director. And it was at that point that I started kind of playing guitar and like leading on Wednesday nights and stuff like that. But that was when I started seeing like the ugly side of the pastor. And I mean, I've had that man like scream in my ear in the middle of worship, like, you're going too long, you need to move on with the song or something like that. And like, I'm like 17 and I'm like freaking out that I just got yelled at, you got to stay out of trouble over there.
Yeah.
And but that was when I started noticing like he never came to practice. He never even showed up for fundraisers. But I would like ask my mom, like, why doesn't he come to practice? If he's playing on the worship team, shouldn't he like be at practice? That's kind of a given. And she would be like, don't you ever question the pastor again, Kaylin. Like, rebuked because I asked why he didn't come to worship practice. Like, intense. And I questioned for a while, and then I eventually gave up because I was done getting rebuked for asking. So yeah, it was just, but yeah, I pretty much slaved for the worship team.
Mhm.
Once I went to the junior college once I graduated high school,
Mhm.
in the next town over. Um, and at that point, I was like leading worship like 2 to 3 times a week
Mhm.
on top of going to school and having a part-time job.
Mhm.
And I was expected to. It wasn't like, hey, do you want to? It was, no, you're going to. You're going to lead Thursday mornings for the students, and you're going to lead Wednesday nights for the church, and you're going to lead Sunday mornings for the church. And I was exhausted all the time.
I bet. Were you getting paid anything?
No.
Yes. Did you eventually get on staff and you were getting paid something?
Yeah, that was like the last 8 months that I was there.
Do you
About
want to say how much that was?
it was about $100 a week
Yeah. I
to be
think
on call 24/7.
I think we got like $50 a week. So you were getting a pay raise, man. That was some high quality funds there. Were services still going like 4 hours?
Oh yeah.
Oh God, it's the worst. It's just the worst. You're like getting so hungry and you're just, especially, I remember, especially when you're a little kid, it's even the worst. Cause as you got older, you could train yourself. Okay, we're going to eat at 2 o'clock or whatever, whenever we get out. But when you're a kid, that's all I could think about. I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what was you're doing all this and you're pretty involved in a church and yet still kind of going to school, going to college. What would you say were the beginnings of red flags happening?
The pastor was the first one.
Yeah.
Just his behavior. He was so rude and so disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen him like verbally abuse my mother, emotionally abuse my mother multiple times, and then it turned into him doing the same thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, another one was there was a kid about my age that passed away, and that was when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the first big one
Yeah.
that I was like, what the heck is going on here, kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. I was gaslighted by the pastor's daughter. Was told that I didn't know what I was talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. That's not what happened to him. But I had a conversation with somebody that firsthand knew what happened to him, and she came and talked to me and was like, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not, don't talk to them. That's not what happened. And make up this story about what really happened, and stuff like that happened all the time. But this was like my best friend,
Yeah.
like I grew up, they were down the street, we played together as kids, and we were all lied to about what actually happened. And so that was,
What were you guys told that happened?
we were told that it was an accident.
Do you want to say what this was or anything, or do you want to just kind of skip over it?
Well, he actually committed suicide.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then is that what was found out after the cops investigated and stuff, or?
Well, the cops did come and investigate, and we were told that the cops ruled it as an accident.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if that's actually true or not. But I know the story and I know how it happened. And I spoke to someone that was on the phone with him right before it happened. And they were basically given a suicide note over the phone.
Oh my God. Oh.
And so I don't know. I don't know if the cops did rule it as an accident. I don't know if they were doing that just for the parents or whatever, but it had to have been.
Jeez, man. And this was during a church service, right? That this happened?
Yes.
Yeah. so sad. I don't really want to go into too much detail about this just because I was not there at the time, so I don't really know all the details of what happened, and I don't want to sit here and talk about stuff that I don't personally know about. This is the I mean, the family has been through a lot themselves, I believe, and you guys too, you guys that were close friends and everything, and it just breaks my heart. And so what was after this had happened, and when the uh pastor's daughter that's still there, she came and told y'all, didn't she tell y'all, like, what was it that was said?
Well, she came to me personally. And at this point, she had already proclaimed to the church that she was supposed to be my spiritual mother. That happened when I was about 16. She got up in front of the church and said, Kaylin, I'm supposed to be your spiritual mother. So I'm going to start spiritually mothering you. Which she's not motherly at all. Okay. And so that happened when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a bunch of girls from a bunch of the teenage girls came over to my house. And she texted me and she said, hey, I'm pulling up to your house. Come outside so I can see you. And this was like the day it happened, that evening.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got in the car with her, and I had already I had already talked to the person that was on the phone with him at this point. And so I knew what had happened, you know, and we were all in there grieving together of our best friend, right? And so she comes and she like gives me this big old hug, and she's like, I'm so sorry this happened. You know, we need to go to war. We need to keep this from happening to anyone else. And I'm like, you know, and I tell her about this conversation that I had. And that's when she was like, no, you don't need to talk to that person. That person doesn't know what they're talking about.
Lord.
And I was like, well, they're the ones that spoke to him though.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that were on the phone with him. Why you can't, but I didn't really speak up because again, I had been disciplined into silence as a child. So anytime anything came up, I was silent. I would not speak up. I would not stand up for myself. I would not argue. It was just the authority said this, so I need to be quiet. And pretty much. So I let her, you know, say that, but I knew that I knew what I knew. Mm-hmm. But I kind of went along with what they were saying so I didn't get counseled. I was so good at keeping out of that. I was so good at hiding from that.
Keeping out of 115, I tell you what. So who was she talking about going to war with? We're going to war with who?
Satan.
People that were, huh?
Satan.
Oh, okay.
We needed to spiritually go to war against Satan so that this did not happen to anyone else.
Yeah, okay. Just like did you listen to the one the latest one I did with Raquel? How she was talking about the demons and stuff.
Yeah.
And how supposedly she had demons in her. You're like,
okay.
Wow, that's God, it's just so sad to hear about. I mean, just such a loss of life and everything, and the way that they react to things is always about like we're in this spiritual warfare. It's never about, man, how could we have actually helped this person? How could we have, like, you know, what do we need to do to change and be better? It's just so mind effed up.
Yeah.
And I guess this kind of leads into something else. I'm going to try to get through this without crying. So if I start crying, just bear with me. This is one of the other red flags that you were talking about. It has to do with my godmother's passing. And she passed like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
Okay. We kind of heard something else, and you know, we've also been away for a while. So some of the stuff that we hear is all just kind of hearsay. And I do try to take things with like a grain of salt, because some things may not be true. Some things are coming third party. Some things are just, so I do, yeah, try to take things with a grain of salt. So what we were told, she passed from a heart attack on a bench or something, which is not the case at all, I think. But do you want to kind of explain that morning, what was going on and what ended up happening?
Well, it was Sunday morning, and I was leading worship that Sunday morning. And it was like regular service. You know, we got through most of praise and worship, and we were kind of coming to the end of the worship part of it. And one of the staff members got up and walked out, and I'm up on the stage so I can see everybody, and I kind of, have a good view of what's going on. And she walks out. And then a few minutes later, she came running back in and grabbed another staff member, and then they went running out together. And then one of them comes running back in and grabs someone else, and like they're running in and out. And I'm like, at this point, I know something's wrong. So I start looking around for who's missing, who's not here, because there's like 20 people, like, there's not that many people left there. So I'm looking around, seeing who's missing, and I realize who's missing. And so at this point, the pastor's daughter had been grabbed, and she was out there. And then I realized whose house they're running to. And so pastor's daughter comes up on the stage and whispers in the pastor's ear, and he goes out there. And then a few minutes later, he comes back in and tells us that this lady has passed away. Mm-hmm. I also knew this lady my whole life. She took me to school for about 3 years when I was in elementary school, to school and home from school every day. Mm-hmm. And so he breaks the news in front of the whole church Sunday morning. And then he says, we need to intercede. Let's do another song.
Is anyone calling the cops at this point?
I know that there were like a few staff members still outside that were taking care of all of that. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and do another worship song. Let's, yeah, because that's what we need to do right now.
Yeah.
So I fight through tears to do the song, trauma. And then afterwards, I just remember breaking down, being unable to even play the guitar anymore. And then after the worship team comes down off the stage, the pastor's up there and he's talking about it, and he's, saying, this is not the time for tears. Five minutes later, this is not the time for tears. This is time to rejoice because she's gone home. And I had the pastor's daughter walk up to me after the service, and I'm in tears still. I'm trying to go back to the dorm I was on staff at this point. I'm trying to go back to the dorm so I can cry. Mm-hmm. And she says, don't cry. This is not the time to cry. Like, gets in my face. Do not cry. Mm-hmm. And then we were supposed to go to lunch. Mm-hmm. And I was instructed that I was supposed to sit with the students and comfort the students and rejoice with them. The whole thing was just messed up. The whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. It just breaks my heart. I mean, the way that like I said, we kind of heard stuff through third party, but how she was actually, so did you just explain, how did they tell y'all what actually happened?
So it wasn't until the next day, I went into the office that morning, and one of the staff members told me that they found her lying on her back in her bed, and that they were going to have an autopsy done. And it wasn't until later that I found out that was a lie. She was not found in her bed. She was found sitting on the couch, slumped over like this.
Oh my gosh.
And this part is hearsay, but there's hearsay that there were pills sitting on the coffee table in front of her, pills and alcohol. No, but that's just, I can't say that for sure, but that's the word.
That's just kind of what has been rumored and
what has been tossed around. Yeah.
And I will say this as someone, granted, I have not been there in quite a while, but Ellen was my godmother. She is someone that I loved dearly, was an amazing person and had a good heart. And I think was just stuck somewhere that she could not get out of.
Yeah.
And she was one of the most joyous people that you would ever come in contact with. And to hear the first time I heard when she had passed, to hear everything, even everything I heard just seemed very off. I did not think that is what happened. And I don't know why, just in the depths of my soul, just something felt off. And when we had talked the other night, I was just like, it's just weird. Like, I don't think that actually happened. I think it may have been something else. And just everything you had said, it just sounded like towards the end that she just kind of was not the same person that she used to be. I don't know what she was dealing with towards the end and all of that, but it's definitely odd and weird. You know what I mean?
The whole thing was off.
Yeah. And just for everybody to just keep going on and singing worship, and it seemed like probably the cops didn't get there for a little bit. And yeah. So what happened when didn't her family try to come get some of her belongings or something?
Yeah, her family tried to come get some of her stuff and they called the cops on them.
So just, yeah. I mean, were they even there? Do you know if they were even there very, very long? They're trying to get, and then.
Well, they called the cops as soon as they pulled up.
Okay. They could.
And then they weren't allowed to come to the funeral.
Jeez, man. Yeah. Oh God. Crap. Well, I would think that this would all definitely be a red flag. Start to get the hell up out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Gosh. Were there other things at all?
Well, I was a very submissive person.
Mm-hmm.
In the idea that I accepted what the authority gave me. Mm-hmm. And again, I say that because I think my parents made it so that I would be that way. You know what I mean? And so I didn't really notice things on my own. It was because of the girls in the program at that time that I started seeing things.
Were you over them? Like, were you a leader of of the girls, or were you?
Yes, I was a dorm supervisor. And I became a dorm supervisor like right after I turned 21 until I left, which was about an 8-month period. Okay. And these girls would, I guess they thought I was cool. Because they would just like say exactly what they thought to me, and they would be like, man, that wasn't cool. I didn't like how they treated me. And, like they're not even treating me like I'm a person. They're treating me like I'm a prisoner. Mm-hmm. But this is a rehab. I don't know why I'm being treated like that. Mm-hmm. Or I started noticing because several of them had kids mm-hmm. and they were told what they were going to do with their kids. This was also when the pandemic started.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were told how they were going to homeschool their kids. And this one girl in particular was forced to buy like certain homeschooling material with her own money. Mm-hmm. But she was not equipped to do that. And that was one of the things that I was like, well, why, that just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. And they all, you know, we were kind of free there at the center to, you know, we didn't have to wear masks or anything because everybody stayed there. And if you did go out, you were supposed to take a shower as soon as you got back and you know, like sanitize everything. But most of us just stayed there the whole time. So it kind of went on as normal, but all the kids had to be homeschooled. So that became part of the program, was that the moms had to homeschool their own children, and take classes and work, and you know how it goes.
Yeah.
But it was just things that they said. It would be things that they would say to me that I would be like, well, yeah, that's not cool. That's not right. Why? That doesn't sound like Jesus. You know, like, and I started waking up because of those girls. And I'm telling you, if it wasn't for those girls, I'd probably still be there. Like, honest truth, I'd probably still be there because I was so submissive. Like, I was just so in it.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of the same way for the longest time. I was one that was definitely more quiet. Did what they said, most of the time abided by the rules. And it wasn't until kind of towards the end where I just started pretty much being like, fuck that. Sorry for my word language, but F that. No, but I'm glad you did. I'm glad you started just like finally start listening to what's going on around you and everything, and seeing all these things.
Yeah, that was also when I started seeing things in the office that were big.
Do you want to tell,
big red flags? That was like towards the end too. I was like,
okay, I was not going to mention this, but I feel just like that this is just something that is just kind of side note or whatever. But there is a person, the second daughter of the pastor, who is still currently there in command. She pretty much has been having an ongoing 20-year affair with one of the elders in the church. And I had suspected it. A bunch of us all suspected it way before, even when I was still there. But do you want to say what kind of happened with one of the elders putting the thing in the office?
Well, I found this out after I had left from someone else who had been gone for several years. But they basically told me the whole story, that these two leaders, pastor's daughter and one of the big leaders in the church, had been having an affair, and this leader's wife had been trying for, I think it was about 10 years to report this to the pastor, and he would not hear it. No, that's impossible. My baby would never do that, right? And so what happened was another one of the leaders put a camera in the office and caught them on camera and showed it to the pastor. And at that point, the pastor could not deny it any longer. And so he slapped them both on the wrist and sent them back to work. That was all they get. I mean,
I cannot stand her. She is the most condescending person you will ever meet in your life.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She, okay, she, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Okay, so when we, this is a whole nother topic, but when we would travel on the road and stuff, I'm going to do a separate episode with talking about traveling on the everything. But she was like our mentor. There were 6 or 7 of us girls that would travel together. She was pretty much like our mentor. And she would get, which we all would, we would get super sore from like dancing and working out nonstop. And she would be like, I'm so sore. Can you please rub me? And I'm like, oh, man, oh. So me and Raquel, who would be like, who's gonna rub her? Like, you know.
She still does that today, by the way. And
yeah,
I would be like, no.
Okay. So at the time, I was so freaking naive. I didn't know anything. We were saving ourselves till marriage. I had never had sex. I never knew what the feeling of like in your like how you felt like around someone that was. And so I like there were a few times when I would be massaging like her shoulder right here, right? And she's like, "Oh, just I really worked this out. Can you just like rub this right here?" And for the show, I'm going like low. I'm talking about for those just listening. I'm talking about like her chest, right? Like on your chest. And then she's like, "Can you go low?" Literally, it would be like at her boob, and at the time she didn't have boobs, but it would be pretty much like on like almost touching her nipple. And like I was 15 or 16, and I remember now knowing what like sexual tension is. That was totally that. I had no idea what that felt like, but I remember thinking like, this feels very weird. And she's like 20, 21. And like, I just remember feeling very weird and just like the whole thing was just bizarre. But I didn't give two minds to it because, you know, we just thought of her as this like mentor who loves God so much, and she would just never that would never be her, you know, and but now looking back, I look back at so many things where I'm just like, ugh. I mean, she would jump in the shower, but she could never with me. I would not allow it, but she would jump in the shower with some of the girls. She would just, yeah, just some weird stuff. But yeah, didn't she like,
her behavior is still the same.
yeah.
Except with me, I was, 16, 17, 18, 19, and she's like 40.
Mhm.
Okay. And she would be like, just rub me, just massage. No. Like I would just that was the only time that I could stand up. I would just be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? I'm like young enough to be your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I just like, and I knew that was not an appropriate thing for me to be like rubbing all over her body. That's weird.
Yeah.
But like, she would like grab my boobs and touch my boobs and touch my butt, and I would like pop her, I'm serious. I would be like, bam. Like,
okay, but that's like, I remember how she wasn't that's like her like play or whatever, right? Like playing around.
She does or whatever.
And like,
but we're all like underage girls. It wasn't just me. It was also the other girls that were younger than me. Mm-hmm. And she would do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And, but now she's got a thing about choking people. She likes to choke people.
Okay, what?
Like choke people, like grab them by the neck and squeeze their neck, okay? And like most of the time it wasn't like for real, like she would just put her hand on your neck, but she really, really choked me one time. Jeez. To the point that I could not breathe. Jeez. And I had to elbow her in her stomach as hard as I could to get her to let go of me. And then I went into this coughing fit, and she like was mad at me because I elbowed her in the stomach. And was like, why would you do that? Like, yeah. I can't stand her. I've like, out of all the people there, I can say other than my parents, she's hurt me the most. I've suffered the most abuse from her because I was her spiritual daughter. I spent so much time with her. I mean, I could talk about everything I've seen with her for forever, probably.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, man. I mean, a lot of the stuff you're saying, she did with all of us as well. I kind of, now looking back, I wish I would have said more things. I wish I would have stood up for other people.
Well, I did.
Huh?
I did.
Yeah, I'm saying, huh?
I did. Like, I would tell people. Mm-hmm. I would tell people, there was one time she really physically abused me, like just straight up really hurt me. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I had stomach issues my entire life. Mm-hmm. And also, as soon as I left, gone, no stomach issues, don't exist. Okay.
Was
like
the food there?
What the craziest thing? No, I think it's spiritual.
Probably with all the anxiety, when you get anxiety and panic attacks, your stomach just does weird stuff. Like you can't.
My gallbladder was shutting down. I had to get surgery to get my gallbladder removed. And at this point, I went through that about 5-6 months. My gallbladder was just shutting down. And it was at the point my entire body, like if you poked me in the arm, it would just radiate through my whole body. It would be so painful just to be like hit anywhere. And she poked me in the stomach hard, like poked. And I told her, that hurts. Do not do that. Like, I'm in pain. And she knew I was in pain. She'd known about this. And she laughed at me and was like, you're just being dramatic. You don't know what you're talking about. And my sister was actually there that day, my younger sister. And she just continued to poke me, continued to poke me. And I was standing there and my legs gave out. And I fell to the ground. And at this point, my sister starts yelling at her and is like, she's really in pain. What are you doing? And she just continues to mock me and laugh at me and say I'm being dramatic and I need to grow up and I need, you know. And I went home and I told my parents what happened. And my dad laughed and he said, Kaylin, you're being dramatic. She would never do that. She didn't hurt you. You need to go back and talk to her and make that right with her.
My gosh.
And my mom was a little more understanding, but as soon as my dad said that, she fell under what he was saying. You know what I mean? And they were like, no, she wouldn't do something like that. She wouldn't do that. You need to go make that right for saying something like that about her. And it was like that my whole life. Like anytime something happened, I would be told, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm being dramatic. I need to go make that right. Because I'm the one that needs to make it right, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's like you're always the one. It's you. You're going to be pulled into 115. You can't go against it today. Hell no. So you are over the girls in the program. You're on staff, getting paid $100 a week, right? You said, okay. And when did you finally start realizing, okay, I got to get out of here? And how did you leave?
Well, truth be told, I didn't want to be there. You know, like I didn't want to be there for a long time. Like I wanted to go make my music. I wanted to go out, but I did not have the tools to do that. I was only ever taught to be there. But you know, there was this girl that was in the program and she had 2 kids. And she was one of the people that were very instrumental in my like awakening, you know. And we got very close while she was in the program and she was supposed to graduate and then they were like, psych, you didn't actually graduate. And she had a home visit. And at this point, me and her had been talking about leaving together. Because I had shared with her, you know, I don't think I believe in this anymore. I don't think that I support this anymore. And I can't continue to stay here. And she was like, well, I can't either. And so she had a home visit and I was luckily picked to be her, what do you call it? I went on this home visit with her.
Yeah, you're like I did that a couple times too. There was a word for it, but yeah.
So I went with her on this home visit to her parents' house and it was supposed to be, we left Friday night and we were supposed to come back Saturday night to be there for church. And so we get over there and we just tell her mom everything. We're like this, it's a cult. We have to get out of here. We're like, we need your help. We don't know what to do. We need to get out right now. Like we don't want the kids going back there. We don't, you know, all of that. And she was like, okay. And she was on board. And so we start making this plan, right? And that weekend there was a big storm that came in Saturday night. And it was a big enough storm that it was a good excuse for us to not get on the road and not come back for Sunday. And they let us slide for that. They were like, okay, well, you know, you need to come back Sunday, right? Because she's got class on Monday, so you need to be back. And so we were like, well, what are we gonna tell them? You know, because I was like getting a U-Haul ready. Like it was that for real. Like and so we just like literally that Sunday, we were like, we're not going back there before we leave. Because I had seen so many people leave at this point. I knew how it went down. I knew what they did. I knew what they were going to say to me. I knew what they were going to say to her. I knew they were going to pull us apart and question us both. And they were going to probably convince me to stay. I knew how powerful of an influence they had and had on my life the past 21 years. And I was like, no, if I go back there and they find out that I intend on leaving, they're going to convince me to stay. And I'm not going to be convinced to stay. So I got a U-Haul, and for some reason, the soonest I could get a U-Haul was that Thursday. So we went MIA. We did not respond to texts. We did not respond to phone calls that entire week.
Gosh.
And I had my mom calling me, and I had my dad calling me, and I had the pastor's daughter was calling me, the leaders were, everybody was calling me, blowing my phone up. And I just didn't respond. And that Wednesday I got a voicemail from the pastor's daughter, and she sounded pissed.
That is freaking awesome.
She was like, I don't know. I haven't heard from you. I don't know what's going on, but you need to call me back. And like, she was pissed.
Wow.
And so that Thursday, we went and picked up the U-Haul with her mom and her brother, because I told them repeatedly, we cannot go there by ourselves. We need backup. I've seen this happen over and over and over again. I know how we need to do this. And luckily they listened to me. So her mom and her brother came with us. And we pulled up in that U-Haul, and we went to our dorm and we started packing up. And the first person to walk in, the pastor's daughter, and she's going, what, Kaylin, I can't with her and her attitude. And I just said, I'm leaving. That was all that I said. And at this point, the adrenaline is like pumping, and I'm like, I'm not giving them anything, you know? And I'm just throwing stuff in the box. Like, we showed up with boxes, and I'm just throwing stuff in the box, and she's like trying to talk to me, and I just said, I'm leaving, and I'm not talking about it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. I'm leaving. And so then another staff member came in, tried to talk to me, and I told her the same thing. I'm leaving, and I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear anything you have to say about it. I know how this goes. I don't want to talk about it. So then my dad shows up and he's like, so are you walking away from God?
Gosh.
And I said, I don't think that God is just here, Dad. And he said, but if you walk out of this covering, you're walking away from God, Kaylin.
Same thing they say to everyone.
And I just said, I don't want to talk about it. I'm leaving, and I don't want to hear what you have to say about it. So then my mom comes, and by now I'm in my room packing up my stuff, and she walks in and closes the door and stands there and says, I'm not moving till you tell me what's going on. She can be scary. Anybody that knows her. My heart is like pounding. I'm like, I'm leaving, Mom. That's it. I'm leaving. And I need you to move out of my way, because I need to take this box out. I was not rude to her. I was very respectful in my speech, okay? And she's like crying. Okay, it was so dramatic. It was like, you would have thought I was gonna go die. Okay. And I just wouldn't give her anything, so she stormed out. And then the pastor's daughter and another staff member come back in, and they're like, "Are you offended?" And I said, "No, I'm not offended. I think I'm well past offended." And they said, "Well, you must be offended if you're leaving." And I said, "No, I'm just leaving. And I don't think that we need to talk about it. Like, my mind is made up." So then they go to the girl that I was leaving with, and they said, "Why are you taking Kaylin? Why are you taking her from us? What about," and then they start using her kids, to manipulate her. And luckily her mom was there, because her mom let them have it. And so after we got all the stuff up in the U-Haul, another leader walks up to me and she says, "Kaylin, you go do what you got to do, but you just know where your home is, okay? You know where your home is. So when you're ready, you come back." And I was like, okay. And then my mom comes over one last time, and she's like, "This is not going to work out for you, right? You're going to leave and nothing's going to work out." Just like that. She said it just like that to me. And I said, "Well, I don't agree with you. I don't believe in that anymore." And then I got in that U-Haul and I left. Wow. And that was the last time I was ever over there.
Wow. I am so glad her mom was with y'all. Yeah. Holy hell. That's just like, and you said her brother was there too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad that y'all had a couple people there, because it is hard.
We cannot go there by ourselves.
No, I've seen it happen too. I've seen it happen, like when other people were leaving. They have all the elders, they have people come over trying to stop you and everything. And they tell you all the same stuff. You'll be on the covering of God. Horrible things will happen to you. But I'm so glad that you got out and everything. Oh my God, I'm just like, it's just crazy to see you, to see you all grown up, and then just to see you speaking. And then I'm so proud of you that you're like speaking out after they completely had you shut, and like you can never speak out or speak your mouth. You know what I mean? I mean, I feel like I know exactly what you're feeling, because I was the same way. I can never, even still to this day, it is really hard for me to speak up in situations and speak up for myself, because I feel like I'm either going to be made fun of or be yelled at or be rebuked or something along that, something along those lines. And I've been trying to train my head into like, you need to speak up for yourself. You know what I mean? And I'm just so glad that you are. I mean, you're so much more than that place, and you're not, listen, I know for the first couple of years after I left, even though you don't think it, in the back of your head, it's in the back of your head that you're like, oh my God, this bad thing happened because I left, or something. Like there was something bad that happened in my life, and it's because I left. But that's not the case at all. Bad things are still going to happen in your life. You know what I mean? Whether you're here or there, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I always have this like thought in the back of my head that like when I make a mistake, I must just not be able to do anything right. And I know that that's their like thing, but it's like an instinct. My first instinct when I mess up is, oh, well, I just can't do anything right. I just mess everything up. And I'm like, have to remind myself, like, no, you made a mistake because you're a human being. Yeah. And that doesn't have to do anything with your whole self. It's just you made a mistake because you're a person. And I've had to like really drill that into my head for the last year and a half since I left. That's been like the biggest thing. So
Yeah, for sure. And just keep on doing that. I mean, after if you just keep on focusing on that and focusing on being healed from all these past things, it will definitely get better and you won't always have that mentality. You know what I mean? Uh and you're still so young. You're only 23, right? Man, okay, that was the age I left, 23. I was like 23, 24. But oh man, so proud of you. Just stepping out. So you are a singer-songwriter,
Mhm.
and I thought that we were gonna see. I think we probably have enough time. I don't even think know if it's been a full hour yet. But did you want to do one of the songs or try to do one of the songs?
Yeah, I got a song. This
So
one,
excited.
huh?
I said I'm so excited.
Well, I had two different songs that I couldn't decide which one
Mhm.
that I wanted to do, but this one is called Silent. And I wrote this one maybe 6, 7 months after I left. And this was when like I had really like realized in depth like what I had grown up in. And I just knew from that point, I knew that I was not going to be able to be quiet about it.
Mhm.
Because it's still going. There's still people there. There's still, my siblings are still there. There's still so much to lose. I can't be quiet about this.
Mhm.
And so this song is called Silent, and that's what it's about.
All right, awesome.
Okay, here we go. If you want me to be silent, you're gonna have to kill me. 'Cause I will not be quiet about the things I have seen. I will not be silent, I wanna be set free. There's no easy road for anyone. You've seen that it's true. No matter where we're going, we're better for knowing. Choose carefully, choose carefully. It's easy to ignore the sound of eternity coming closer than before. If you want me to be silent, you're gonna have to kill me. 'Cause I will not be quiet about the things I've seen. I will not be silent, I wanna be set free. Oh, 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 oh. And not everyone is what they see. Lots of people have tricks up their sleeve. And if I choose to walk away, then I'll carry it to my grave. But I've climbed the mountain and I've crossed the sea, so this doesn't scare me. If you want me to be silent, you're gonna have to kill me. 'Cause I will not be quiet about the things I've seen. I will not be silent, I wanna be set free. And if you want me to be silent, you're gonna have to kill me. 'Cause I could not forgive myself for letting it be. I will not be quiet about the things I've seen. I will not be silent, I wanna be set free.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was the perfect one then.
I know.
They were between two. I'm like, well, that's pretty perfect. Oh man, so what do you have any like YouTube channels or anything that you're trying to do right now, like along those lines or anything?
Well, I'm working on an album with my best friend producer,
Mhm.
um, who was actually involved with the center for a little bit.
They were
He
there for a little bit and left?
wasn't ever there, but he would come out and help the worship team sometimes,
Oh
like
my
play
God,
with me on the worship team.
I have to know
You
who
probably
this.
won't know who he is,
Oh,
but
okay. Okay.
that was his only involvement. He just came out and would help on the worship team sometimes, but since then we've grown way closer. He's basically my brother and now my music producer. So we're working on an album right now. It's going to be under the name Liberty Ann, which is my music name, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh,
I'll be releasing an EP sometime this year. We'll have to see, but it'll be all over the place. You'll see it.
awesome. Oh man, I can't wait. Hopefully, yeah. Oh my Lord. I'm like, what else do we have here? Man, well, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. I know you're definitely more of someone who recently has left, and this really is not, all this stuff is really not easy to discuss or talk about, because especially when you're kind of first getting out, because you yourself are still trying to process what actually happened, you know?
Yeah.
So just by even talking about it, I mean, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll start to get more and more people to open up and to expose what is going on. I have already been getting messages from people, they may not be on here on themselves, but with horrific stories that I am just, I'm even like, holy crap, I can't believe that happened there, like back in the 90s and stuff. Beyond like, wow. But yeah, just thank you so much. And I guess we'll go ahead and close out. um, just want to thank everyone for listening in. And if you are out there and trying to decide if you want to come out, even you don't even have to be from Straightway, but if you are in some type of cult and want to tell your story, you can message me at my email is Ciria, Ciria Garcia 83@yahoo.com. And I would love to have more people on to discuss other types of cults or other abusive situations that you want to get out of. But yes, like I said, thank you so much. And hopefully we will talk again. I would love to have you on a second time. You can maybe do a couple more songs and we can discuss more things, cult, center, funny stories, just all along those lines. Anyways, thank you everyone for listening, and hope you have a good rest of your night or day, whatever time you're listening. All right, thanks so much.